It was just another gray morning in the small town of Clearwater, where life moved slowly, and faces were familiar. Inside the old diner on Main Street, the smell of fresh coffee and buttered toast filled the air. Rain tapped gently against the windows, and the sound of a sizzling griddle played like background music to the quiet chatter of regulars. Among the usual crowd, a young waitress named Mia moved between tables with her practiced smile, balancing trays and refilling cups. Her hair was tied neatly back, her blue uniform slightly faded, and her shoes worn from long shifts. But her heart was bigger than her paycheck, and that's what made her different. Every morning at exactly 8:10, an elderly man named Mr. Harris would walk through the diner's glass door. He always wore the same gray overcoat and brown hat, his face lined with years of stories no one else seemed to know. He sat by the window, the same booth every day, and ordered the same thing, black coffee, 2 slices of toast, and scrambled eggs. But unlike the other customers, he never said much. His hands trembled slightly when he held his cup, and sometimes he stared out at the rain for minutes, lost somewhere far away in his thoughts. Mia had noticed him from her first week at the diner. There was something lonely about him, something that quietly tugged at her heart. The other waitresses just took his order, left the plate, and moved on. But Mia lingered. She asked how his morning was, made sure his toast was warm, and once even slipped him a small piece of pie on the house. It started as kindness, a simple act, but soon, it became routine. Every morning, she'd greet him with a smile and a fresh cup of coffee before he even asked. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small good deeds, please take a second to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us keep spreading real stories that warm the heart. Over the weeks, Mia learned that Mr. Harris used to be a teacher. He'd lost his wife years ago and lived alone in a small house just outside town. His children had moved away, and though he rarely mentioned them, Mia could sense the quiet ache in his silence. Sometimes he brought an old newspaper with him, and other times, he just watched people, maybe remembering the life he once had. For Mia, who was struggling to hold herself together, his quiet company became oddly comforting. Because Mia's life wasn't easy either. Her mother was sick, and the bills were piling up faster than she could pay them. She worked double shifts, took night classes, and often skipped her own meals just to make sure her mother had enough. There were nights she cried alone in her small apartment, wondering how much longer she could hold everything together. But every morning, no matter how tired she was, she greeted Mr. Harris with warmth. Helping him, even in small ways, reminded her that kindness still mattered, that maybe life wasn't all struggle. One cold winter morning, when the snow had begun to fall, Mr. Harris didn't show up. Mia noticed right away. The booth by the window stayed empty, and something inside her tightened with worry. The next day came, and still no sign of him. She even asked a few regulars if they'd seen him, but no one knew. On the 3rd morning, she called the small local hospital, and her heart sank when she heard he had been admitted after a fall at home. Without thinking twice, she took her short break and went to see him. When Mia walked into the hospital room, Mr. Harris looked frail but surprised, and grateful. No one else had come. She stayed by his side for a few minutes, brought him a small muffin from the diner, and promised she'd check on him until he got better. For the next week, she did just that. Between shifts, she'd visit him, bring small things, coffee, a flower, sometimes just a smile. The nurses began to notice her dedication, whispering among themselves that the waitress from the diner had a heart of gold. A week later, Mr. Harris returned to the diner. His walk was slower, his hands weaker, but his eyes, they were softer now, brighter even. When Mia saw him, her face lit up. She helped him to his booth, made sure his coat was hung properly, and brought him his breakfast with extra care. He didn't say much that day, but before he left, he looked at her for a long moment and said quietly, "You remind me of my daughter." Mia smiled, not realizing how much that small sentence would mean later. Days turned into weeks, and things returned to their gentle routine. Until one morning, a few months later, something unusual happened. It was just past 8:10, and Mia was refilling sugar containers when the diner door opened. But it wasn't Mr. Harris. Instead, 4 men in black suits walked in, their presence so sharp it cut through the room's calm. Behind them came 2 lawyers, serious-looking, holding folders, and the entire diner fell silent. Mia froze when they stopped near her counter. "Are you Mia?" one of them asked. Her heart skipped. "Yes, is something wrong?" The lawyer smiled faintly. "We represent Mr. Harris." Before she could respond, one of the men handed her a sealed envelope. The lawyer continued, "Mr. Harris passed away last week. He spoke highly of you. He wanted us to deliver this personally." Mia's breath caught in her chest. The sound of dishes, the hum of chatter, everything around her faded into silence. She could barely hear herself whisper, "He passed away." The lawyer nodded, his tone soft now. "He left something for you." Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter and a folded document. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The letter was simple but heartfelt. Mr. Harris thanked her for her kindness, for the mornings she brightened, the warmth she gave, and for reminding him that compassion still existed in a world that often forgets it. He wrote that in his final years, her small acts of care had meant more than she could imagine. Then came the part that left her speechless. The document stated that Mr. Harris had transferred ownership of his old house to Mia. Along with it, a small sum of money, enough to clear her mother's medical bills and finally give her a chance to breathe. The lawyers explained that he had no surviving family willing to claim his estate. "He said you were the only one who treated him like family," the lawyer added gently. Mia stood there, tears streaming down her face, unable to find words. The regular customers, who had quietly watched the exchange, sat in stunned silence. The man who had sat in that corner booth for months, quietly sipping his coffee, had left behind a legacy of gratitude for the one person who cared enough to notice him. That night, Mia visited his house. It was small but warm, filled with books, photographs, and memories frozen in time. On his desk, she found a framed picture, one she hadn't seen before. It was of her and Mr. Harris, taken by another customer one morning when they were laughing over spilled coffee. He had framed it. As she stood there, the light of the setting sun pouring through the window, Mia realized that kindness doesn't always come back in the way we expect, but it always comes back. She closed her eyes, whispered a quiet thank you, and promised to keep his memory alive by continuing what she'd always done best, spreading kindness wherever she could. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Thread for more real stories that remind us of the goodness still left in this world. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what's one small act of kindness you believe can change someone's day? Your words might inspire someone else to do the same. And as the final light faded from Mr. Harris's old house, Mia smiled softly, because in helping a lonely old man, she had unknowingly been given the greatest gift of all, the reminder that love, in its simplest form, is the most powerful legacy we can leave behind.